created the cemetery in 1872. The many tombstones are a reminder of those who call the cemetery their final resting place. A few, however, may not be resting quietly.
Oh my God, it's creepy. It was so eerie.
We're walking through the cemetery, and one of our members all of a sudden says, "I just heard something whisper in my ear." All of a sudden, we had another girl from, who was across the cemetery say, "Something just whispered in my ear."
She's hearing something.
Why are you here? Are you here for any specific purpose?
Pretty soon, we're all hearing stuff like people, something like going psst in our ear, trying to get our attention. We'd be walking down a path and we'd hear someone running behind us, and we'd spin around to see who it was. But we'd turn around and there'd be nobody there.
Oh, what the? I just went from 35 minutes of battery to nothing. It's happily taunting and playing with our equipment. It knows how. It's annoying.
And that was where it got really fun, because we started following the lower path, and we thought we heard or saw something down there, or we were moving along there, and as soon as we crossed in between the two buildings that are on the lower path, our camera battery and all the batteries we had on us died in that instant.
So we were in the cemetery with no equipment. We see a dark shadow, and it keeps zipping back and forth, and so we actually got a couple pictures of it, and you can see in the pictures a person. It looks, there's a head and there's shoulders, and there's kind of looks like arms.
And all of a sudden one of my other members would say the exact same thing. We're both pointing the same direction. It's like, okay. So we start heading in that direction. Then we see it head back in the other direction. It comes back the other direction. Then everybody else starts seeing the same thing. The same figure starts bouncing around.
The strange and unusual can appear anywhere. Whether it's a beautiful, welcoming bed and breakfast, an institution of higher learning, your friendly neighborhood diner, or the final resting place for our loved ones. Whether someone thinks what they've experienced is real or imagined, the stories passed on from generation to generation in the North Country become part of what we are, part of the folklore and frost.
Well, that'll send shivers up your spine, won't it, huh? That's kind of a whet your appetite notion about what is happening here at WPBS and our folklore and frost activities that we have this fall. We're going to be doing a fairly extensive documentary on some of the things that you have just seen. That'll be coming up on the 4th of October. That's our first viewing at 10:30 p.m. It will be broadcast several times, and you can find out many more details about it on our website, which again I would certainly recommend you take a look at. While that little thing, that little activity we were showing you here a minute ago was on, we had several viewers call with additional questions. So we'll see if we can't get to a few of those before we run out of time here tonight. Belle, you're first up. Have you ever been interested in attempting to solve murders and or missing children kind of activities?
I've actually been doing that type of work for many years now, where I volunteer my services as a psychic medium to assist in missing person cases and murder investigations. So when I do this type of work, I don't charge any fee. I consider that a part of community service.
How does that, tell me how that would work? A police agency would come to you and say, Belle, look, we've got this child missing. Have you got any ideas what to do? How do you do that? I mean, do you?
Generally, I'll have family members contacting me, because unfortunately a lot of our police agencies are a little skeptical, a little leery of the assistance that we're able to give them. But I have to say, in all fairness, a lot of them are starting to realize that we can be a valuable asset to pointing them in the right direction for solving crimes. But often what happens is a family member will come to you and they'll state, I have a missing family member, and can you help me decide, are they alive, are they passed, where are they? And if they're passed, I'm able to see them kind of like on this side of my peripheral vision. I'm able to feel them or see them here If they're not passed, I see them or feel them here. So immediately I'm able to give that family member some sort of information. Your loved one's passed or your loved one is alive and okay. And if they are passed, I'm able to oftentimes see through the eyes of the victim to sort of give information to the investigators, to the family members as to descriptions of perpetrators, scenarios, vehicles, you know, any helpful information that will point them in the right direction.
Well, Phil, Kate, the question comes, we saw in the video clip that you had some physical evidence of seeing a ghost. You were in the cemetery, you shot some pictures, and lo and behold, there was some evidence there that there was. Do you often, the question is, do you often get the physical evidence that you're seeking when you go out and do your investigations?
Sometimes we do. I think there's different levels of evidence. You know, you kind of have, like, you get the readings, which is good evidence, I mean, but it's not exactly something you can really record. I mean, we just got a new piece of equipment that allows us to do a bar graph, so we can measure spikes and, you know, sort of determine where it's coming from. But then we have photographs, you know, and EVPs, and like the photographs have different levels. There's orbs, which sometimes are dust, sometimes are rain, sometimes are spirits, and then we have forms, shadows, or actual pictures look like faces, and, you know, it kind of depends on how active the location is, you know, what strength the spirits are at.
And in reality, they're not going to be able to go into a home and solve the case in 30 minutes or an hour. You know, the type of work that Kate and Phil do is taking. It's you know, it takes a lot of time. Sometimes you're sitting for, you know, 10, 15 hours and getting nothing. But then there's that one case.
Or else, you know, and then sometimes you'll be sitting there and you'll be staring at the screen, and everybody else will be going about measuring stuff, and you'll be staring at the screen, and then all of a sudden you'll see a shadow where there's nobody, and then it's like all those hours of sitting there staring, so like mind-numbingly boring times, and then it's like you see something, and then it's like, that's it, that's worth it, you know, because we want to be objective about what we find, but at the same time, we want the homeowners to be satisfied with what we've done. We want them to feel like they have closure. Either they have a ghost or a spirit in their house, or they don't. We want them to know one way or the other, not, well, it could be haunted. You know, some indications point to being haunted, but we didn't get anything.
But we also report all of this back to the homeowner, regardless of what our findings are. We give every bit of evidence that we have, like, we recorded this spike in this room. The homeowner may not know what that means, but
they may not care what that means.
We give them everything, and this way, if another team wants to come in and check the same place, they can follow up on those very same readings. They can follow up on the same stuff if they know what they're doing. So anybody can try and repeat what we just did. That's part of the science side.
Well, one of the questions that popped up could be addressed to both parties, if you will, in this, and how do you know who is a fake and who isn't? Who's a real, honest psychic? Who is a real, honest investigator of these types of spiritual activities? How do you know that? How do you distinguish that?
Well, you know, unfortunately, there are those out there on both sides, on the investigative side, on the psychic side, who are scammers. You know, I just had a customer to call me yesterday during her reading, and she said, you know, a couple days ago I went by a palm reader, and I had some questions, and so I went to see her, and she immediately began to tell me that my family name was cursed, and that nothing good was ever going to happen in my life, and the reason I'm having all of this bad luck is because of this curse. And for $100, she'll take this money and she'll go to her church, tape this $100 onto a candle, and then, you know, take care of it. Make this curse go away. And she says, Belle, I felt like I was being scammed. And my response to her was, well, guess what? You were. And I've had other customers that have had, you know, that have been milked out of thousands of dollars.
And I think the way to tell, at least in my opinion, is details. If you have a psychic who is legitimate, she won't just say, oh, you're cursed, your house is haunted by an evil spirit. You know, when Belle does a reading at a house that, you know, we're investigating, she gives details. And, you know, it may not be specific details like this is a social security number or exact age, but she will give details where if
From
somebody
that period.
if somebody who knew that spirit